Dr. Adams. Ms. Houchin, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for testifying before us today. In alignment with this committee's continued effort for innovation and transparency in the higher education space, I want to discuss some of the ways my district and the state of Indiana are excelling in this area. Dr. Rennick, like Georgia State University, Indiana's Purdue University is also part of the University Innovation Alliance, which works to bring together the best ideas from leading research universities across the country. What is the unique collaboration happening within the University Innovation Alliance, and why is that important?
Yeah, the University Innovation Alliance has existed now for almost a decade, and it was a unique partnership initially between 11 institutions. Both Purdue and Georgia State were founding members. The presidents got together and decided that they needed to do something to move the needle in significant ways on graduating, especially low-income students and students of color. And the idea behind it is similar to some of what I've talked about in my testimony, that there are a lot of new approaches out there that were not in our grasp as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, we weren't talking about using AI to support students or predictive analytics or CRM technologies and so forth. These institutions are all research institutions, and so they've gotten together and said, we can contribute to the national discussion by doing cutting-edge research in this space. We pioneered in the UIA initial studies of the use of predictive analytics back in 2012 and 13 and so forth, where these new approaches were just beginning to be used. We've also experimented with the uses of AI and chatbot across the UIA as well. So it's an attempt to bring the powers of research institutions to the space that we're discussing this morning.
Thank you. And as a representative of a very rural area with lots of low-income families, I do appreciate the Innovation Alliance. I want to switch gears a little bit toward student loan crisis. As you probably know, student debt in the United States is now over $1.6 trillion, with the average borrower owing over $37,000. Previous Purdue president Mitch Daniels famously in Indiana froze tuition rates. We on our side of the aisle are opposed to this student loan bailout, student loans being free, paid for by the 87% of people who don't take out student loans, yet lose out due to the inflation of the cost of that. But I want to just touch on, since 1980, the average cost of college has risen, college attendance has risen by 180%. Transparency on the cost of college is a theme that I continue to hear in constituent meetings. I'd like to see more of that as we consider the higher education reauthorization in this committee, because we've seen things like transparency in college borrowing reduce cost. Just this past year, Indiana University in my district established an academic tuition and fee task force to clarify the biennial process of setting tuition and fees for undergrad students, resulting in increased transparency and as an opportunity to find savings. Dr. Carroll, you mentioned in your testimony that decreasing student costs is one of the 2 challenges we must address in our conversations. Would you agree that transparency in student loans, like what Indiana University has done with their academic tuition and fee task force, should be included in our attempt to decrease student loan debt?
Thank you for the question. Born and raised a Hoosier, appreciate what has been happening in Indiana related to higher ed innovation. And yes, I do think that that is a good model, and that transparency needs to be accompanied by clarity. So particularly for first-generation students, but for all of us, the explanation of the costs of college, the total costs of the entire college experience, and where those funds go must be much more clearer as we proceed.
As a parent of a college student who's just navigated her first year, that would be appreciated by just me alone as a parent. In an effort for increased transparency, Indiana in 2015 passed a law requiring that every college and university that participates in state aid programs must send annual student loan debt notification to borrowers. Today, 13 states have put this requirement into law. This notification requirement has led to a 48% reduction in undergraduate student loans for Indiana residents since 2013, totaling $156.5 million. Dr. Carroll, do you think it would be beneficial for this committee to consider legislation that would require annual student loan debt notifications be sent to borrowers for more clarity and transparency?
Clarity and transparency would be well served.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing these conversations as part of this committee as we continue to consider the Higher Education Reauthorization Act. And it's apparent to me that Indiana certainly has been a leader when it comes to college cost transparency, and I'm grateful for that as a Hoosier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Houchin. Ms. Manning, you're recognized.